Hello and welcome to How to Be Dutch the Quiz, all the questions that should be on the Dutch citizenship exam, according to me, the American Netherlander, who's been here for 20 years. Chapter 3, Dutch Housing. Compared to the United States, the Netherlands has a relatively small homeless problem. How they manage this feat is a mystery because it can be very difficult to find housing. Very difficult. Question 1. When you get the keys to your new Dutch housing, what can you expect? A. Set of keys with extremely detailed explanation on how to use them. B. Set of keys with no explanation at all. C. Set of keys with an extra four-sided cross key just in case. Answer: A and C. When receiving keys to Dutch housing, you will likely be given an extremely detailed lecture on what not to do, so complex that you'll be sure you've missed a detail or two. This will leave you confident only in the fact that you will end up locking yourself out of your own house at some point. And then there's the mysterious four-sided cross key, which in the Netherlands is also called the China key. There's a lovely Dutch tradition of using ethnic terms to identify an object's origin, such as Jodenkoek, or just to randomly insult an entire race. See negerzoen. The four-sided China key exists to be so clunky that you will take it off your key ring at some point, which will inevitably trigger the one time out of 1,000 that your neighbor in the same building will use their China key and lock you out of your own house. Question 2. What is the rationale behind Dutch staircases? A. To celebrate Dutch nautical history. B. To be efficient with space. C. To punish humanity. Answer: B and C. Dutch staircases are notorious for being bizarrely steep, twisted, and inhumane. In other words, normal. Some older Dutch houses feature staircases that seem to have been literally ripped out of old ships. Obviously, when floor space is limited, it's necessary to be efficient with space. But even in newer, more spacious housing, Dutch building codes still require steepness and a maximum number of twists and turns. It's no wonder that the Dutch word for staircase is trap, as in something you fall into. Question 3. Which are acceptable structures for Dutch housing? A. Squatted flat. B. Abandoned shipping containers. C. Abandoned office building. D. Abandoned boat. Answer: everything except A. Dutch housing organizations are rewarded for their creativity with unclaimed structures such as boats, offices, and yes, even stacks of shipping containers. But if you try to exercise this same creativity by squatting in an actual house, you will be treated like a terrorist. Question 4. What is the Dutch version of full bath? A. A bathtub that is full. B. An empty room with a shower head. C. A full bathroom with bathtub, shower, toilet, and sink. Answer: B. In Dutch housing, there is rarely a bathtub. More likely, there is a shower head in one corner with not even the pretense of a shower curtain. Rather, there may be a squeegee with which Dutch people can engage in their favorite pastime of moving water where they want it to go. The toilet will be located in a separate room where the aromas of defecation can be more acutely concentrated. Question 5. Why do Dutch toilets have a poop shelf? A. So you can get to know your poop. B. To keep you humble. C. Don't be silly, that's not a thing. Answer: A. Dutch culture is well known for treating sex as a natural part of life. Less well known is that there's a similar attitude toward the toilet. The poop shelf was indeed designed as an inspection shelf, making sure one's poop is on the level. Whereas the rest of the world finds such a practice scatological and repulsive, the Dutch seem keen to pride themselves on what they've accomplished. When Freud invented the term anal retentive, it is well possible he was referring to a Dutch patient. Granted, the inspection shelf is not as common these days, but Dutch manufacturers still do make the things. Recently, I went on a trip to a home improvement center, and there they were on display. I had to check if maybe they were old models that someone was trying to get rid of, but nope, they were new. Clearly, there's still a demand for the Dutch poop pedestal. There was even a toilet design named Carice. You may know the actress Carice van Houten for her role as Lady Melisandre on Game of Thrones. Were the designers going for a pun on the word thrones? Possibly. That would have been a good one. But it only made me think of Carice van Houten's Game of Thrones catchphrase as it applies to the toilet inspection shelf. The night is dark and full of terrors. In our current house, we still have a toilet with an inspection shelf. Our house is like many old Dutch houses built on sand. It leans over to one side. Thus, our toilet shelf has become more of a toilet slope, angled backward, or if you will, it's sort of like a toilet stunt ramp. Every time we flush, it's an adventure. Will our brown heroes make it over the edge into freedom? Now, Americans have been accused of being loud and arrogant, as summed up in the phrase, they think their shit don't stink. But, to the defense of Americans, at least the shit is submerged in water. And now, bonus question. You want to apply for the Dutch Stadsregister, the Dutch housing registry. What should you bring to your appointment? A, your passport. B, your passport and work permit. C, every form of documentation you've ever had, and another 3 you never knew existed. Answer C. The civil servants at the Dutch Stadsregister approach their jobs with a unique scrutiny. There is a chronic shortage of Dutch housing because Dutch people treat housing like they treat their bikes. They get new ones without necessarily getting rid of the old ones first. As a result, you will need to provide many forms of documentation. The sheer amount of documentation is designed to convince you maybe you should move somewhere else. You will need a passport, birth certificate, signatures from witnesses, and perhaps even an apostille. The term apostille comes from the riddle which follower of Jesus was maybe French. Only if you answer the riddle correctly may you reside in the Netherlands. And note, being registered at the Stadsregister is not the same as having a verblijfsvergunning residence permit. In other words, you may have permission to live in the Netherlands, but you don't have permission to stay. Up next is How to Be Dutch, Chapter 4. And, meanwhile, check out my 3rd book, The American Netherlander, 25 Years of Expat Tales, available internationally.